Jumanji: Welcome to the Jungle was directed by Jake Kasdan and stars Dwayne Johnson, Karen Gillan, Kevin Hart, and Jack Black, and is not quite a reboot, sort of a sequel of the original Jumanji, which came out in the 90s, starring the late Robin Williams, rest in peace. And where in the original film it was a board game that kids played that brought the elements of that board game into the real world, like animal stampedes, in this film it's four kids who are stuck in detention who find an old video game console and they want to pass the time, so they choose the characters they want to play and they get sucked into the world of Jumanji, and these kids are now being portrayed by their avatars. And so as a result, you get one of the best things about this film, the fact that the majority of these actors get to play against type. Jack Black is an Instagram-loving, really popular girl at school who no longer has her phone and is stuck in an overweight middle-aged man's body in the middle of the jungle. And so Jack Black has a lot of fun with that. Dwayne Johnson looks like Dwayne Johnson, but in real life, he's a kid named Spencer who's afraid of just about everything, including squirrels. And so The Rock gets to have a lot of fun with that. And that's the best part of this film, to see these actors play against type, at least those two. Dwayne Johnson and Jack Black are my favorite parts of this film. Karen Gillan is also really good, but she doesn't play so much against type, and Kevin Hart definitely doesn't. I think Kevin Hart's a brilliant comedian. He can fill a football stadium with people, and you have to respect that. But he basically is playing himself in the film, which was a disappointment considering that everyone else is having a lot more fun with their roles and tweaking their image and making fun of their image, so to speak, where Kevin Hart is once again making a lot of jokes about his height and the fact that The Rock is a lot bigger than him, which is something we saw a lot in Central Intelligence. And so that was disappointing because all of the other actors are having so much fun with these roles, and Hart is basically doing his shtick. Surprisingly, what I also liked is how the film has fun with the way a video game would play out. The four characters meet non-player characters, somebody that's supposed to take them someplace and they just say the same stuff over and over again. If you ask them a unique question, they just repeat what they just said because that's what the video game wants this character to do. So we have people who just take them places and then they're like, bye, and they walk off and they disappear and you never see them again because they're a non-player character. And so this film can have a lot of fun with the way a video game is structured. It also leads me to a few of my plot holes, which I'll get into later. Bobby Cannavale plays the main villain of Jumanji. He wants this glowing green rock, and it's explained in a cutscene. It forces the main characters to see a cutscene that you would experience in a video game, and you learn exposition and the plot. And it's kind of funny how it plays with that, but it's also a very lazy way to make your movie because you have the opportunity to do that and it plays for a joke, but at the same time it's just this big exposition-filled backstory and you just don't really care about the villain. That's at least my experience with this movie. He just kind of appeared every once in a while and was he was just like this weird, creepy guy who had control over the insects of the jungle or whatever. Like, he lets them crawl all over his body and stuff. It was kind of silly. There are plenty of action sequences with a lot of really great stunt work, people flying all over the place, and you could tell that those are real people doing a lot of the stunts, which I was impressed by. But there is also an over-reliance on CGI. There's a lot of sequences that feel very heavy on it, and I'm fine with CG, as long as it's implemented into the film well. And there were a lot of animals that were just very noticeable, and it just stood out. It was kind of an eyesore. Now, I mentioned that there were some plot holes. Most people are just going to have fun with their family and watch this movie and eat popcorn, but I couldn't help but notice some things. This is a film that presents itself as a video game, this world. It's a video game. They get sucked into it, and it unfolds in front of them like a video game. They have strengths, abilities, weaknesses. They can touch a part of their body and then see their strengths and their weaknesses. Everything that you would experience in a video game, the film has fun playing with those things. But they also cut back to Bobby Cannavale with his villains when the lead characters aren't there, suggesting that this world somehow operates fully functionally, not just as a video game, but as an actual universe. I would have liked to have seen them address that in the film because, as you know, a video game renders as you experience things. When you're fighting a boss battle, the other boss of the game isn't like on the other side of the planet just having a soda. Like, you render things as you encounter them. And so it would have been kind of cool, like, if the characters climbed a mountain and looked really far off and were like, wow, the world isn't even, I don't even see the world over there. And then as they walk closer, it renders into view. That would have been a really cool thing, but the film never really addresses why we're also experiencing things outside of the cutscenes that the heroes see in their heads, why this world also exists somewhere else when the main avatars aren't playing with it. Another one is that one of their first objectives is to find this missing piece. No spoilers, but once they find this missing piece, you realize that it was sort of this coincidence, like this thing that just happened that wouldn't have normally happened, and yet somehow the game recoded itself for the heroes to have to include that as an objective, which doesn't quite make sense. Like, a game is a game, unless it can recreate and reform, and it's different than a normal video game. And you can fill in these plot holes with your own thoughts about why something might make sense. The problem is that the film never addresses these things. Like, if they had a scene where Spencer, who is a very smart, computer-savvy character, started realizing that this game is rendering other things that they're not experiencing, or that it can change its objectives based off of whatever the game is experiencing, that would have been really cool. And I think it could have given the film, I don't know, a few more layers. Now, all those plot holes can have explanations, and you can fill in the gaps, and you can say, you know what, this is just a fun movie, go have a good time watching it. And I'll be honest, I did. I had a fun time watching Jumanji, but those are some of the things that bugged me as I watched it because my overactive brain couldn't stop thinking. But in the end, this is a movie where really famous people get to play against type. Jack Black and The Rock really stand out. Jake Kasdan does a pretty good job directing a lot of fun action sequences. The score is also pretty exciting. I had a good time watching this movie, and I think young kids and families are also going to have fun with it. But if you start thinking too much about it, it kind of starts to fall apart a little bit, but it's still a perfectly enjoyable movie. I'm going to give Jumanji: Welcome to the Jungle a B-. Guys, thank you so much, as always, for watching. And as always, if you like this, you can click right here and get Stuckmanized.